decisions of Think and Grow Rich. And guys, one of the most important chapters, I say that every time. And as I was just saying before we turn the recording on, Doug's going to run it initially because I really intend for this to be a history lesson today. Yes, there's some opening remarks in here that are critical. But I want you guys to really take on the consequences of a decision. That's when you know you're truly making one that matters. And in this history lesson, there are a ton of places where significance occurs. So I'm going to step out. Doug, I'm turning the room over to you. I'm going to mute myself and turn on my normal background. Yet you guys are recording. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. All right. What stood out to everyone?
Man, this was deep. Good morning, everyone. Hey, I wrote a couple notes. There is a power in a definite decision. When you make a decision that you cannot go back, when there's a decision that going back literally equals death, think about how millions of people in the world itself was changed by a group of men that said we are not going to be living underneath the current political construct. That's what I got from that. And the second thing is I was struck by how small decisions, how they accumulate like a snowball. And at the end of the day, those very small, what we consider small decisions, impact everything else. You know, I heard someone say there are no small decisions. Every decision is a big decision. So that's just what I have.
Can you elaborate on that, Client, as far as where you saw the small decisions taking place?
In the context of the book that we're reading, it's in regards to quote unquote the founding fathers. And everyone looks at 1776 as that momentous decision where, hey, you know, we are now free. And I didn't even know this, and I'm a history major. But when I looked back at the small decisions were made, that when people said, hey, I'm not living under this context, and they contacted other people and said, hey, I'm unhappy with this. Are you unhappy with this? It's just two men. Everything, this whole thing, Samuel Adams, this whole American experience that we have, and it's actually an experiment that we have. Two people. That's it. Really small, minute decisions with two people. And that's what I mean when I say that.
Right. Awesome. Who's next? Julianne, go for it.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Boy, I mean, the author did not mince words. This was a short chapter. It was a concise chapter, and it was a powerful chapter. Painting the picture of the founding fathers. And the thing I got mostly out of this is the bigger the impact of the decision, the higher the consequence for you not doing it. Do you see? It's really, it's correlating. You know, there's big decisions and there's small decisions, and while they're all important decisions because they put you where you are now, like Darius Rucker says in his song This, because it leads you here. Every step you take, every red light you don't make, it leads you here to this. Every heartbreak you've had and whatnot. And so for the founding fathers, as a fine example, because we talk about Henry Ford a lot, committing treason because of the injustice was really like, wow. They really wanted that there was power. They wanted to be separate. So reaching decisions promptly and changing these decisions slowly, as the author opens up the chapter on, That's even if they were changed at all. They are indicators. That's a pattern that he studied, and he found that all people who were successful with attaining the money all made decisions promptly. I mean, that there's an absolute there, you know. And I think the one that hit me is because a lot of people tell you, fake it till you make it. And that's the people who talk and do little else. So there's the talking, and then there's the doing. That was the other part of this chapter that I was really like, without a where's the hold on, I gotta turn the page. Being influenced by the opinions of others. So when you can be talked out of stuff and not make your own decisions, and there's not a lot of power in that. You're just becoming, you know, somebody who is a lackey, basically. So lots of great stuff in such a little chapter.
Absolutely. Great. I love that about the reaching decisions quickly and definitely, and then changing them slowly. Did you happen to look up to see how many years it was before Henry Ford changed the Model T to a different model?
I did not.
It was something like 16 years. And the only other car to beat that was the Volkswagen Beetle.
Thank goodness, because it's a cute car.
It is a cute car. I agree.
And they even brought it back, you know, so.
Yeah, really.
But both of those cars are iconic. Those two cars were some of the cars that, when you think about them, are iconic cars, and they stayed around the longest. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens to the Tesla's sport utility vehicle. This is the truck.
Right. Boy, that's
So
a cutting edge thing, huh?
So, Doug and Julianne, I think that the idea of being quick to make the decision and slow to undecide that decision within the industry, within the real estate industry, I feel like this is where probably 85% of our failure rate comes from, because we are all told what we should be doing by who, you know, oh, you got to do this, or you got to do this. Oh, you know what, change up your marketing plan. Like, let's get something different going. You know, this isn't working. No, do you know that, and I don't know if this is accurate, but I read someplace, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but I saw a post that said that the average podcaster hits success when they reach hundreds of podcasts, and the average beginner podcaster quits at 28 podcasts. And so we don't, when we're farming, when we're cold calling, when we're running ads, whenever we're doing whatever we are doing, we quit at like 1/20th of the place where we need to keep going to be successful at that. At one-off ad, one-off post, one-off email, one-off door knocking has zero effect. But just relentlessly making that decision quickly. Who am I? What do I want to do? How do I want to do it? And then relentlessly driving towards that one thing is how we gain success in this industry.
Got a question. But for people that are, got a question, and this might be directed to Ann. So for people that are successful, have they indeed made a quick decision? I submit that they have not. It only looks quick from our end because we see that decision point. But I submit to you guys, like, I'm thinking about this. So in regards to, okay, I'm married. It looks like when someone would see, when the point in time when I proposed to my wife, it looked like, wow, he proposed to her, that was a quick decision. No. The thought process was going on a year ago.
But that's when you made the decision.
And that's what this, yes.
But then it may take a long time to execute, but your decision, you knew you wanted You probably even earlier than you admitted it to yourself, you wanted to marry that woman.
And that's what the book is saying. We're looking at 1776. The book is saying we're looking at the wrong target. We need to be looking back 6 years before when
Yeah.
definitive decisions were being made and they were saying, I am not backing up. This is it. I stake my finance, I stake my life, I stake my community. This is it. And this is a scary, scary thing for us as agents because what we're actually doing, are we indeed committing it is real estate or death? Are we actually saying I'm going to do this or it's nothing else? I'm going to go sit on the trash heap. I mean, it's important, but it's a wild thought. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's
I,
a powerful.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
was, okay, what was the basis of these decisions that they made these further life decisions about? They started with integrity. These decisions started with, um, uh, they were looking at what harm was being done to people. They were not willing to tolerate something. They were making decisions based on human rights, on things like that. These were things um, that they saw were being uh, people were being mistreated, people were being enslaved, and so many of us are also rising up in what we've done. In, for example, in the real estate, we're rising up. Sure, there's an opportunity for money, but when we find the place that we fit, that serves, we are able to move forward. And we're also able to find the place where we make better decisions on what it is that will be the right tool for us. When we get into real estate, we're kind of left, right, center, unless somebody comes in and already understands this place. So it comes back a lot to it came back to human rights, treating people with respect, treating people with fairness, giving opportunity, the all of those things. So again, when we find our place where we're serving, where we will not let that thing happen anymore. We will help people to get past where they are and get them set free. We're making little decisions. We're recognizing something and making a decision. This is not right. We keep making those decisions and we start fulfilling the character that God put into us because we get to see what's important. And each of us carries a different part of that. That's one of the reasons this mastermind is so effective, because we're making decisions when we see people who stand for what is right working together. So we're so many decisions. This is a decision that being in this mastermind, it's awesome. Thank you all.
Listening to you guys all, thanks, Janet. And it's just so crazy, right? Because I was like waiting to speak, and it's just like perfect because what you guys are talking about, right, is that identity. What I got from listening to you guys and some things that I wrote down was you have to know who you are, right? How could you decide quickly? How could you make a decision when something is confronted with to you today if you don't know who you are? What do you stand for? What are your values, right? What are your non-negotiables? Like, what am I not going to compromise? When you know these things, when you're grounded in these things, right? You know for sure that this is it. So when something is thrown at you, that is because at first reading this, it was like, I thought you're supposed to take time and deliberate and review the facts and get some insight and do this, right? That's my mind, because my mind is always thinking like that, which I'm working on, right? But it's like, how do you do that? And it came to me, when you know what you want, right? When you know what your future is already before you walk into it, then you can step up quickly and make a decision, right? You can step in quickly and say, you know what, that doesn't align with my value. Oh, that's not my avatar. I'm not going to waste my time. You know, this doesn't align with whatever I see myself going. That way you can say, nope, yes, no, quicker than you could ever do before. So that resonated with me, right? Who are you? Who's your avatar? What are you here to do? What is your purpose? I wrote down what coach has been putting into the room. What is your mission? Do you know your mission statement? What is that? Is it one that someone gave to you? Was it something that someone said you should do? Or is it something that you know is true? Is it something that you know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? You know, what are your non-negotiables? Have you already identified those things? Who is the avatar that you are trying to connect with? These are the things I'm just, it's like we have to know these things clearly so that we can deal with everything else that comes. And I love the other piece that stood out to me. I won't say the page, but it says great excitement followed. Some weighed the possible consequences of such radicalism, in parentheses, fear. Some expressed grave doubt as to the wisdom of so definite a decision in defiance of the crown, right? And you're going against what the majority says, right? You're doing something different that no one saw before, and you're still pressing ahead, right? And then it says, locked in that room were two men immune to fear, blind to the possibility of failure. I thought that was so like, whoa. How can I become immune to fear and blind to the possibility of failure? I know I got some work to do, but just something that I thought about.
I think she's excited, and she's hitting on her purpose. She's understanding who she is and what she's called to do. Great, 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 Naprita.
You know what I hear when Nafritha talks, and also when Anne and Julianne talked, and Jeanette, everybody, what we're hearing is, what does it take to be a leader when the wave of opinion it just looks to be going one direction, when in fact the leader is stepping back and saying, this doesn't seem right. And I'm willing to take the chance that maybe there are some others that may not be speaking up, but I'll speak my truth. And that's a leader. Whatever we call that, whether it's right or wrong, there is no right or wrong. It's they're choosing their new path. And I just feel so glad that, you know, we're in a room of people who want to be better, more, different. You know, we're creating our own path of what do we want for our future. And we're even asking that question. A lot of people don't ask that question of, what do I want? And, you know, we're in a good setting, guys. I know you all know this, but I feel very clear. You know, my last week, I have not been playing full on for whatever reason. I won't say why, but it isn't permanent. You know, my week is not permanent. It's what my overall path is, my direction. And I really enjoyed listening to you guys. That's all I have to say.
Hey, that was great, Celeste. You know, you said something that really hit me. My week is not. That's why God gave us days. Could you imagine if one day was an eternity where you mess up and it's 9 o'clock and that mess up is forever? Man, that sucks. But we have an opportunity to say, you know what? I messed up on Monday at 9 o'clock, but it's 9:30. It's 9:30, and I can fix it right now. And so we have the ability, we have the blessing of being able to know we have the ability to change it and do something different every single minute of the day. We're never stuck in the past unless we choose to be stuck.
One of the things that you're pointing out, Celeste, I think is kind of the general picture of what this is all saying, and that is, did you notice how the decision of a couple of men was like a magnet that attracted other men in other colonies? Hancock and Adams were in Massachusetts, and they were under the in-house occupation of the British soldiers in Boston. But then Jefferson in Virginia and Richard Henry Lee, they also had a correspondence going on. And when those two groups connected, man,
It was a tidal wave.
it was, and it was, man, that statement of Henry Lee when he walks into the assembly on June 7th. He says, "Gentlemen, I make a motion that these United States are and of a right ought to be free and independent states, and that they be absolved from all allegiance to the British crown, and all political connection between them be and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved." There is clarity in that statement. There's resolve in that statement. There's a throw down of the glove in that statement. Everybody in the room had to make a decision after he said that. There was either going forward or running out the door. There was only two options.
I don't know if I'm the only one that heard it, but when you said British, I thought you said British clown, not crown.
Well, that too.
I do. I know. I heard that too, Celeste.
I was thinking maybe that was on purpose.
Maybe that was the.
So I got a question for you guys.
What you said, Doug.
Oh, I'm
How
sorry.
do we get there in our minds, and how do we
Exactly.
There you go.
That was going to be my question. You read it, man. What's the difference between those group of guys and this group of guys?
Exactly.
Because
Well,
they were passionate. They have a passion. They don't care.
But
They just know that
it's even more than that, Carrie, though.
well, I
They
mean,
were willing to stake their life on
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Courage.
You guys don't want it bad enough. They wanted it bad enough that they would stake their life on it. Now, oh man, it's 3 o'clock. I'm tired. I'm not going to make calls anymore.
This
I
was
mean,
something.
I see and hear this vacuum of commitment, and there is nothing more all in than literally saying and signing your name on your death warrant. If
That's exactly
this
right.
doesn't work, I will be killed by the most powerful government on the planet.
Yep.
That's where they went. How many of you are going, I'm going to work until I am going to have conversations every day till my voice is hoarse, and I'm going to do it for a specific window of time. Doug, I don't know where you are on the list. I want to give one nugget into this room right now just to let you guys know the truth, because I was in a mastermind yesterday with Brent Gove. Brent Gove went all in every single day for 90 days. And that's what set up his operation here at EXP. It was a 90-day intense, heads down like the founding fathers is what Brent did 8 years ago that has transformed his life. So where are you on this list of names, Doug? I see lots of mics open.
Yep. Jeanette, Naprita, and Julianne.
Okay. One of the things we ask ourselves is, how are we going to get here? We just had that question. One of the things we can do is realize where we've been. And so if you go to page 149 on it, it talks about indecision is a habit usually formed in youth. and takes on permanency as we grow. The habit of indecision goes with the student into the occupation he chooses. And then 98% of every 100 people working for wages are in positions they hold because they lacked definiteness of decision to plan a definite position, the knowledge of how to choose an employer. And there are a lot of us that have every time we tried to step forward, or not, I'm not taking that on for myself because that hasn't happened, but enough times you're trying to step forward and then somebody comes up with their idea and says, oh, you can't do that. No, that's not practical. So he also talks in here about letting things sink into yourself enough before you really bring them out, that somebody can't steal that dream, that somebody can't steal that purpose. Because we all have a higher purpose. We all have something that's so worthwhile. There's none of us that's junk. There's none of us that is weak. There's none of us that is incapable. And here we are together, bringing out the best in each other so that we can do things like this, where we can, it's like, okay, so maybe that is what I grew up with. Now I get to make a new decision. I can make a decision. I can say, this is where I want to go. And then all the other pieces can start falling into place. And they may be haphazard at first, but write them down and keep them. We can move forward in this together.
And as Ryan would be telling us if he were here today in this room, take the action. I love this. You have a brain and a mind of your own. Use it and reach your own decisions. And then take immediate action on those decisions. So, Miss Nefritha, I believe, based on what Doug said, the floor is yours.
So, just to piggyback off of, somebody just said it, right? That idea of that you're alone, right? And here is, oh, Doug, you said it, right? Sometimes we're working on a thing and we're like, oh my God, it seems so huge. How am I going to do this? But I was reminded, right, that you're not the only one that's probably working towards this cause, right? Like you said, Doug, like there were people all over. Like I was literally looking at it as you said, it says another leader in a different section of the country was deep in the throes of that same thing. So to me, that was like encouragement to know like that you're not alone. And whether it's a person, right, or it's an angel that's fighting on your behalf or making intercession for you or doing something, it's like know that you're not alone. But in that, you have to have two words stood out to me, and I added commitment. After Coach said commitment, but decision and courage. I keep seeing the word courage popping up in this chapter, right? And in, on page 160 in my book, it says to tell the world what you intend to do, but first show it, right? And then underneath it says the value of decisions depends upon the courage required to make them. And of course, me being me, I went and I defined courage. Courage is the ability to face fear, danger, or uncertainty, and to make good decisions in spite of those things. So, what are some things that we could do to make this happen? We can have a little bit of courage, right? And I love the part that reminded us that we don't have to do it for ourselves. We don't have to have the strength for ourselves. But it says the world has the habit of making room for people whose words and actions show they know where they are going. And that goes back to what I asked earlier. Where are we going? What is our purpose? What do we serve? And it just reminded me of Proverbs 18:16. And I pulled it up and it says, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. So you will be placed before great people. You will get that great opportunity, that $1 million listing, that whatever you think, because God says that your gifts will make room for you. But you got to dig deep and tap into your courage and know that it's possible. That was something that I took away from.
So with that on the floor, I want to ask everybody to hold up their written goal statement from, I think it was chapter 3 or 4. It should be there. You should have it. You should be reading it aloud. Keep it up. Move it around. I see Nefrithas. I see Doug's. I'm looking for others because this is about you implementing this. So if you haven't yet, and guys, this is my bookmark. I'm going to be asking about it all the time. So you might want to get going on that. Go back and read the chapter, follow the model, write it down. You don't have to have the quote specifics of the plan, yet some sort of a plan of how you're going to get there. So again, to close out today, I will have $98,150 per month revenue share by September 30, 2027. I will give every day to 9 people dedicated to getting to 10,000 a month. I will spend all day, every day, 6 days a week in service to them. I've got it. I'm saying it. I'm living it. And I promise you, based on the model that I'm following, there is no doubt in my mind that it's going to be happening.